to God, Dakwadoa, Cara Cowan Watts. Hello, everyone. This is Cara Cowan Watts with Cherokee 411, and we're here today with Flossie Gertie. Hey, Flossie, I know you're in Tahlequah. How are you doing today?
Hello, I'm doing just fine.
Very good. Well, we're going to announce something pretty quick, so I'm excited that you were our winner. But before we get to that, tell us if they do not know the famous and infamous Flossie Gertie, like I do, what you were one of our first four employees working for the modern day Cherokee Nation. Is that correct?
Yes, in 1967, I was one of four employees working for the Cherokee Nation and W.W. Keeler downtown in a little pink office called the Young Building in Tahlequah.
Now, is that still there today? Is that,
It burned down recently.
oh my
It was
gosh.
there, but it burned down within the last 2 years, and it
Okay.
is gone now. I had a
Okay.
picture of it that I sent to the Phoenix newspaper and told them they couldn't use it without my permission. So I don't know if they've ever used it or not.
Well, we would love to use that photo if you want to send it to us, and we would love to do a story about anything you have about that building and your memories if you'd like, separate
Okay,
from this.
okay.
That would be awesome. So, what did you do when you first worked for the tribe, Flossie?
Well, I was the secretary. I was hired to be the secretary,
Okay.
and it sort of evolved. I sold advertising ads. Ralph
Okay.
Kane was the business manager, and he had a little offset press in the back. And so I wrote the Cherokee newsletter. I typed it up on a paper plate and printed it out, mailed it out to everybody that was associated with Cherokee Nation at that time, which was
And you
mostly the
said this
community
was
representatives.
1966, is that correct?
1967, August
67.
August 15, 1967 is when I went to work for the tribe.
Oh my gosh. So, yeah, because August 14th, I know is typically when we swear in elected officials now. So I guess that would have been his first swearing in, and then he hired you guys.
Well, he hadn't been sworn in. We hadn't had our first election then. We later evolved down to the complex. In fact, my father had a whole work group of full-blood Cherokees. All they spoke was Cherokee, and they built the first buildings on the tribal complex. So the first
Oh,
those yeah, he built the hotel and what was the Phillips 66 service station and the two buildings that HR is in now. My dad was
okay.
responsible for the crew that built those buildings. In fact, my husband was the one that was the premier plumber for the hotel.
Wow. Okay. So if you have photos of that, we would love to do a piece and all your recollections and memories and anything you have. If you would love to share that with everyone, we would love to get that. Even if I come to Tahlequah to record. So go
See what
ahead.
I can pull together.
Okay, that would be awesome. So so you started out in that way in 1967, and then you said you mailed this newsletter, and so this would have been pre-modern enrollment. So about how
Right.
many people got this newsletter in 1967?
I don't really recall, but it just grew, and then we finally had to go down to. I had to type up these little address plates, and we went down to what was called the pictorial press. It's now the daily press, and printed out the envelopes to mail those with, and and then eventually we got the Cherokee Nation News. It evolved into the newspaper, and I didn't do that, but my sister-in-law Sue Thompson, who was just recently on OCO TV
Yes.
as one of the she was a editor of that.
Well, I love that. I had no idea about Sue. I thought she had been in early childhood development and never asked her about what she initially did for the tribe. How fascinating. Um, I'll have to ask her when I see her and the kids at some of this stuff locally. Okay, so then what was it? What's the quick rundown on what you did for the tribe? Because when I got there, you were over records, if I correct records.
Well, we lost Ralph Kane. He was fired, I guess, or asked to leave, and we got Bob Stop. And Marie Wadley was working. She was donating her time to Cherokee Nation, and she was wanting to upgrade me to administrative officer. And Bob Stopp wanted a man for that job. I was already doing it, so I took the civil service exam to go to work for the Bureau of Indian Affairs. I mean, I could have gotten on an Indian preference, but I wanted to get on through the Civil Service Commission. And that's when we were going to have our first election in '71.
Okay.
And so I was the first registrar uh, for the Cherokee election. And I was selected for the job at Muskogee. And Bob Stopp called over and asked them to hold off on my employment until after the election. I was going to give myself the registration number 1, but I had to give that to Keeler, so I got number 2. And so the day after the election, I went to work for the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and that was August 15, 1971.
That is incredible. So when you retired, how many years did you have serving the Cherokee Nation and BIA?
Well, I had 4 years initially with the Cherokee Nation, and then I had about 40 years with Bureau of Indian Affairs. I came back to Cherokee Nation in uh, early 2000, and then Bill John Baker fired me in 2011. So, so, but I was already retired anyway, so he did me a favor.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
that's the
had
only time I've ever
forgotten.
been fired in my life was by Bill John Baker,
Wow,
and
that
I
was the
brag
Bloody
about that.
Friday, right?
What?
Was that the Bloody Friday?
No, he fired me later. He
Wow.
fired me later. Yeah, he had Charles Head come do it. Charles, worked for the Cherokee Nation, and I supervised Charles at one time. I was the executive director of tribal resources when Chad hired me. And so I supervised Charles, and I liked Charles. He'd left the nation and gone back to work for the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And then Bill Baker brought him back. And I don't remember what he was over at that time. I think he was in accounting, maybe. But then he sent him over and gave me 2 hours to clean out my desk. And that was pretty hard because I'd never been fired before. But that was all
Well,
right.
I can't control that craziness, but all I know is my crew was so ecstatic when we found out you had won the skirt because we are huge Flossie Gertie fans and know that you have this massive legacy of really helping build the Cherokee Nation. And I will always remember you for that. Um, Unfortunately, that just means there's another crazy notch over by Bill John. Okay, so what you what was your favorite thing about working for the Cherokee Nation over all those years, and something you just feel like really strongly you want to know the Cherokee people know that you did to help further us and create something?
Well, we didn't have any money at that time. We didn't get overtime. We didn't get weekend. We didn't get holidays off. We worked weekends, and most of our meetings were in Cherokee, and they would be out in the communities. They weren't all at Tahlequah. And I never saw Bill John Baker at one meeting, although he's attested to the fact that he's been to those meetings. But anyway, every Bill William Glory or Bill Keeler would drive up in a big stretch limo and get out, and it was just he always had slacks and a white short sleeve shirt and a bowler tie, and it was just like talking to your neighbor. He was very friendly, very gracious, and but his secretary was a little bitty guy, and he scared you. You were afraid of him. But he allowed anybody that wanted to speak at the community meetings, and he was just a wonderful man. And he took his time out from running the Phillips Petroleum Company to come take care of or assist the Cherokee people who didn't have anything. And he's the one that really got it started, I think. And the Cherokee Nation and the UKB worked hand in hand. In fact, some of the members on the executive committee is what it was called back then. We didn't have a council. some of our executive committee was on the United Keetoowah Band committee, and they in turn served on our committee. And so I took meetings at both committee minutes at both of those committee meetings, and it was just a good time because you were working for yourself. You were actually working for yourself. You weren't working for the paycheck. It meant something, and you knew you were helping your people. It was just a wonderful time.
That's incredible. I know it's not the same, but at one point I remember on council that's what sustained me even during difficult times was I felt like we were still doing something at that point
Hmm.
for our Cherokee people, something bigger, much bigger
Yeah,
than ourselves or
yeah. I
any
think
collective.
the Cowboys have taken over the Indians now. You used to when you voted for a Dreadful Water or Ragsdale or Doublehead. You could identify those people because people were known by their family names, and now you don't know who these people are. But
Yeah.
you do know you do know who they're being
Sponsor is.
sponsored by because of the money that goes into their, and so it's not really a fair election anymore. So I stay away from Cherokee Nation as much as I can. It just doesn't mean what it used to.
And that is so heartbreaking.
It is.
But I warm my heart that I got to talk to you today, Flossie. So I'm excited. We're going to have to video some more interviews though, because I want to hear all these things from you and these stories. But in the meantime, I want you to know that you have won and get to show this beautiful skirt. And this one is actually made by a Seminole woman that I grew up with, and she taught with my dad at Seminole Junior College. And Cynthia Yerby's her name. And for many years, she was the world wrestling champion, world
Really?
champion, like beat Russians
Oh
for
my
women.
goodness.
And I think she beat both most men. And so that skirt's coming to you. I'm not going to make you wait until I get to Tahlequah. So we're going to ship it directly to your house. And congratulations, you're the premium user that signed up for an annual subscription with Cherokee 411 that was drawn. And it was so funny when our partner said that he had drawn it. Deb and Kimberly and I were all so excited because it was you.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, I paid for the enrollment or whatever it's called or membership because I know of you and I know what you're trying to do for the tribe and for the nation. Not because I thought I was going to win anything because I had no idea, but I believe in what you're doing, and you know anybody else would have given up. They would have
Yeah,
given
it's
up
hard
and
for me
said,
to give
well,
up, Flossie. You guys
yeah,
trained me, I hope. Well,
well, you've been through the fire. That's for sure.
well, congratulations. And on that note, I look forward to hearing more from you, and I will work with you to see if we could get some time when I'm down for Cherokee National Holiday. Do you think that might be enough time to get some stuff together?
Oh, well, I'm a pack rat, so possibly, possibly. I don't remember things like I used to. Um, I'm getting older, but I'll see what I can come up with.
I love this. Okay, well, you let me know when you're ready and we'll get it set up, okay?
Okay. All right.
Congratulations. So good to see
Thank
you,
you.
Flossie. Tell the kids I said hi.
All right, I will.
All right. Until we see you again, everyone,
Uh,
have a good day.
Join the conversation. Discover stories and insights that matter to you. Subscribe to Cherokee 411 with Cara and stay connected with independent media, real, relevant, and unfiltered.